Silence does not always mean absence of feeling. In many situations, silence is actually where emotions become stronger but harder to express. When a woman still has feelings for you, but those feelings are mixed with confusion, memories, or uncertainty, she may choose silence instead of words. It becomes a space where she can protect her emotions without having to explain them. Sometimes what is left unsaid carries more weight than what is spoken, because speaking requires clarity, and clarity is not always easy when emotions are still unresolved. Unresolved emotions often create an internal conflict. On one side, there may still be care, attachment, or emotional connection. And on the other side, there may be doubt, hesitation, or past experiences that make her question everything. When these feelings exist together, expressing them openly can feel overwhelming. Instead of saying something she might regret or cannot fully explain, she chooses to remain silent. Silence, in this case, is not distance without meaning, but distance filled with thought. It allows her to process what she feels without external pressure or immediate reaction. Silence can also act as a form of emotional control. When someone speaks too quickly while emotions are still unsettled, they may say things that do not truly reflect their deeper feelings. By staying silent, she gives herself time to avoid impulsive reactions. This does not mean she does not care, but rather that she cares enough to avoid creating more confusion. Emotional attraction often becomes more complex after certain experiences, and complexity often leads to quiet reflection instead of open communication. Another important part of this silence is vulnerability. Expressing feelings requires emotional openness, and emotional openness comes with risk. When someone has already experienced emotional uncertainty, they may become more careful about revealing how they feel. Silence becomes a shield that protects them from feeling exposed. Even if the feelings are still present, the fear of being misunderstood or hurt again can make expression difficult. This does not remove the emotion, but it hides it behind quiet distance. Silence can also mean that she is trying to understand her own emotions more clearly. Feelings are not always simple or immediate. Sometimes they need time to settle, to be understood, and to be accepted. During this process, communication may slow down or stop completely, not because the connection has disappeared, but because it is being evaluated internally. She may be thinking about what the connection means, whether it still holds value, and whether it is worth expressing again. There is also a difference between silence that comes from indifference and silence that comes from emotional depth. Indifference often feels cold and distant without any sign of reflection. But silence connected to unresolved emotions often feels different because it carries weight. It may not be expressed directly, but it exists beneath the surface. Emotional attraction does not always disappear easily, especially when meaningful moments or connections have already been created. When silence is filled with unresolved emotions, it often reflects a deeper process rather than a lack of feeling. It shows that something still matters, but it has not yet found the right way to be expressed. And when someone chooses silence instead of careless words, it can sometimes mean that the emotions are still there, just waiting for clarity before they are revealed. Sometimes silence is not about losing feelings, but about protecting them. When a woman has been emotionally affected in the past, whether through disappointment, misunderstanding, or unmet expectations, she may choose distance as a way to protect herself. Even if the emotional connection still exists, the fear of experiencing the same pain again can become stronger than the desire to express those feelings openly. Silence, in this case, becomes a form of emotional defense. It allows her to create space between what she feels and what she is willing to risk again. Emotional protection often develops after moments where trust felt uncertain. When someone invests emotionally and does not receive the clarity or consistency they hoped for, it can leave a lasting impression. That impression does not always remove feelings, but it changes how those feelings are handled. Instead of moving forward freely, she may begin to hold back, becoming more careful with her actions and words. Silence gives her control over the situation because by not expressing everything, she avoids placing herself in a vulnerable position again. There is also a natural instinct to avoid emotional pain once it has been experienced. When someone has felt hurt before, they often become more aware of the risks involved in opening up again. Even if she still feels something for you, she may question whether those feelings will lead to the same outcome. This internal questioning creates hesitation. Instead of acting on emotion, she chooses to pause, observe, and protect her peace. Emotional attraction may still exist beneath that silence, but it is now surrounded by caution. Silence can also reflect self respect. When a woman feels that she has already given enough emotionally or expressed herself in the past, she may decide not to repeat the same effort again. This is not because the feelings are gone, but because she values her own emotional well being. Self respect often means knowing when to step back instead of continuously investing without clarity. By remaining silent, she maintains her dignity and avoids placing herself in a situation where she feels undervalued or uncertain. Another important aspect of emotional protection is the desire for stability. When emotions feel unstable or unpredictable, silence can create a sense of control. It allows her to process her thoughts without external influence or pressure. Instead of reacting immediately, she takes time to understand whether the connection is still safe or worth revisiting. This pause is not always visible, but it often reflects a deeper level of thinking. Emotional attraction can still be present, but it is now being measured against the need for emotional security. Sometimes silence is also a way of observing change. She may want to see if things have improved, if communication has become more consistent, or if intentions are clearer. Instead of asking directly, she watches from a distance. This observation allows her to protect herself while still remaining aware of what is happening. Emotional protection does not always mean complete disconnection. It often means controlled distance, where feelings are managed carefully. When silence comes from emotional protection, it often carries a quiet strength. It shows that she is aware of her feelings, but chooses to handle them with caution rather than impulse. Emotional attraction does not always disappear after difficulty, but it becomes more guarded. And when someone chooses silence to protect their emotions, it often means that the feelings still exist, but they are being carefully held back to avoid being hurt again. Sometimes silence is not distance, but observation. When a woman still has feelings for you yet chooses not to express them, it can mean she is waiting for clarity rather than creating confusion. Instead of reacting emotionally, she steps back and begins to watch your actions more closely. Words can be said easily, but actions reveal consistency, intention, and truth over time. Her silence becomes a space where she can understand what you really feel without directly asking for it. This does not mean she has lost interest, but rather that she is trying to protect herself from making assumptions that could lead to disappointment. Clarity is important when emotions are involved, because unclear situations often create emotional instability. If she has experienced mixed signals, inconsistent behavior, or uncertainty in the past, she may no longer feel comfortable relying on words alone. Silence allows her to slow everything down and observe whether your actions align with what you say. This observation is not done with negativity, but with caution. Emotional attraction may still exist, but it is now combined with a need for reassurance that feels real and consistent. When someone chooses to stay silent and observe, it often shows maturity. Instead of reacting impulsively or expressing emotions without direction, she allows time to reveal the truth of the situation. Time often exposes patterns, and patterns show whether something is genuine or temporary. She may be looking for signs of effort, consistency, and emotional presence. These signs are not always asked for directly because asking can sometimes feel like forcing a response. Instead, silence allows her to see what happens naturally, without pressure or expectation. This kind of silence can also come from a desire to feel chosen rather than chased. When a woman values emotional connection, she often wants to feel that the effort is mutual and genuine. If she always feels like she has to initiate or express first, it can create imbalance. By stepping back, she gives space for you to show your intentions clearly. This space is not empty, it is filled with quiet observation. She may still be thinking about you, still feeling connected, but she is allowing your actions to speak instead of pushing for answers. Waiting for clarity also reflects self-respect. It shows that she does not want to rush into something without understanding its direction. Emotional attraction can sometimes make people act quickly, but experience often teaches the importance of patience. Silence becomes a way to avoid repeating past mistakes. It allows her to remain emotionally aware without becoming emotionally overwhelmed. This balance creates stability because she is not ignoring her feelings, but she is also not letting them control her decisions completely. Another important part of this silence is trust in the process. Instead of forcing communication, she allows time to reveal what is real. If your actions remain consistent and genuine, it may naturally rebuild connection. If not, the silence itself gives her the answer she needs without confrontation. This approach protects her emotional energy while still leaving space for possibility. Emotional attraction does not always need constant communication to exist, but it does need clarity to grow. When a woman chooses silence to observe rather than react, it often means she is searching for truth in actions instead of words. This silence carries intention, not indifference. And when someone steps back to understand your true intentions, it often means the feelings are still there, but they are waiting for something real before they are expressed again. Sometimes silence is not about a lack of feeling, but about holding on to self respect. Even when emotions are still present, a woman may choose not to reach out because she values her dignity and personal boundaries. Emotional attraction does not always lead to action, especially when someone feels that they have already expressed enough in the past. If she believes that she made the effort before, showed her interest, or gave her time and energy, she may now feel that it is not her place to continue initiating. Silence in this case becomes a way of maintaining balance rather than chasing something uncertain. Self respect often grows stronger after emotional experiences that felt one sided or unclear. When someone feels that their effort was not equally matched, it can create a quiet decision to step back. This decision is not always easy, especially when feelings are still involved. There may still be care, curiosity, or emotional attachment, but alongside those feelings is a stronger sense of self worth. Instead of acting on emotion alone, she chooses to protect her value by not repeating the same pattern. Silence becomes a form of discipline, where she controls her actions even if her feelings are still present. Ego can also play a role, but not always in a negative way. In this context, ego is often connected to personal pride and the desire to not appear vulnerable without reason. When someone feels that reaching out again might make them look weak or overly invested, they may choose silence instead. This does not mean they do not care, but rather that they care about how they are perceived and how they feel about themselves. Emotional attraction can exist alongside this internal resistance, creating a situation where feelings remain, but expression is held back. There is also a desire to feel valued and chosen without having to ask for it. When a woman has self respect, she often wants to see effort from the other side without constantly initiating it herself. She may believe that if the connection is truly meaningful, it should naturally show through your actions. Silence gives space for that to happen. It allows her to see whether you are willing to step forward without being prompted. This is not about testing in a manipulative way, but about understanding whether the connection has mutual value. Another important aspect of this silence is emotional balance. Acting purely on feelings can sometimes lead to decisions that create more confusion or disappointment. By choosing silence, she maintains control over her emotions instead of letting them control her actions. This control creates stability because she is not reacting impulsively. Emotional attraction often feels strong, but self respect ensures that those feelings are handled with awareness rather than urgency. This balance allows her to stay grounded even when emotions are present. Silence in this situation can also reflect a quiet expectation. She may still hope for clarity, effort, or communication, but she is not willing to lower her standards to ask for it. Standards are often shaped by past experiences, and once they are established, they guide behavior. Even if she misses the connection, she may choose to remain silent because breaking her own boundaries would create internal discomfort. Respecting herself becomes more important than temporarily satisfying her emotions. When silence comes from self respect and personal boundaries, it often carries a quiet strength. It shows that feelings are still there, but they are not strong enough to override her sense of value. And when someone chooses dignity over impulse, it often means that the emotions still exist, but they are waiting for equal effort before they are expressed again. Sometimes silence is not about distance or disinterest, but about processing emotions in a deeper and more personal way. Not everyone expresses what they feel immediately, especially when those feelings are complex or tied to past experiences. When a woman still has feelings for you but chooses to remain silent, it can often mean that she is trying to understand those emotions before she allows them to be seen. Emotional processing takes time because feelings are not always clear in the moment. They can be layered with memories, expectations, and questions that need to be answered internally before they are expressed externally. Processing emotions internally often happens when someone wants to avoid confusion. If she speaks too soon without understanding what she truly feels, her words may not reflect her real intentions. Instead of creating more uncertainty, she takes a step back and allows herself the space to think clearly. This silence becomes a place where she can organize her thoughts, reflect on past interactions, and decide what those feelings actually mean. It is not about ignoring the connection, but about understanding it in a way that feels honest and stable. Emotional processing also involves revisiting past experiences. She may be thinking about what happened before, how things made her feel, and whether those feelings have changed or remained the same. This reflection is important because it helps her determine whether the connection still has value. When emotions are strong, it is easy to act impulsively, but when someone chooses to process instead of react, it shows emotional awareness. Emotional awareness creates clarity, and clarity helps prevent repeating patterns that may have caused confusion or disappointment in the past. Silence during this phase can also reflect a need for emotional balance. When feelings are intense, taking time to process them helps prevent overwhelming reactions. She may want to make sure that her emotions are not based only on temporary feelings, but on something more stable and meaningful. This approach creates a sense of control because she is not allowing emotions to dictate her actions immediately. Instead, she is guiding her actions with understanding. Emotional attraction may still exist, but it is being carefully evaluated rather than expressed without direction. Another important part of internal processing is deciding what she truly wants. Feelings alone are not always enough to move forward. She may be asking herself whether the connection aligns with her expectations, whether it brings her peace, and whether it is worth revisiting. These questions do not always have immediate answers, which is why silence becomes necessary. It gives her the time and mental space to reach a conclusion that feels right. This process may not be visible from the outside, but it is often very active internally. Silence can also mean that she is trying to gain emotional clarity without external influence. When too many conversations or opinions are involved, it can become difficult to understand one's true feelings. By stepping back, she creates a quiet environment where her thoughts can settle naturally. This allows her to separate temporary emotions from deeper, more consistent feelings. Emotional clarity often requires distance because distance provides perspective. When a woman chooses silence to process her emotions, it often means that the feelings are still present but not yet fully understood. She is not ignoring the connection, but trying to define it in a way that makes sense to her. And when someone takes the time to truly understand what they feel, it often means those emotions carry enough depth to be taken seriously before they are expressed again. Sometimes silence is not just distance or emotional protection, but a quiet way of understanding your true intentions. When a woman still has feelings for you, yet chooses not to express them, it can also mean she is observing how you respond in the absence of her effort. Instead of asking directly or seeking reassurance through words, she allows space to see whether you naturally show interest, consistency, and care. This kind of silence is not always about testing in a manipulative sense, but more about discovering what is real without influencing it. When nothing is forced, what remains often reveals the truth. Emotional attraction often creates curiosity. When someone cares, they want to understand how much the other person values the connection. But instead of asking questions that may feel vulnerable, silence becomes a way to find those answers. She may step back to see if you move forward, remain consistent, or lose interest. This observation is quiet but intentional. It allows her to understand whether the connection holds importance for you as well, without needing to request attention or effort directly. In this space, your actions begin to speak louder than anything she could ask. This kind of silence also reflects a desire for genuine effort. When someone values emotional connection, they often want to feel chosen without having to constantly ask for it. If she always initiates or expresses first, it can create imbalance. By becoming silent, she creates an opportunity for you to show your side of the connection naturally. This is not about creating pressure, but about allowing authenticity to appear. Genuine effort is often most visible when it is not requested because it shows what someone truly wants rather than what they feel obligated to do. Silence in this situation can also reveal emotional patience. Instead of rushing into communication or reacting based on temporary feelings, she allows time to show what is consistent and real. Patience creates clarity because it removes the noise of immediate emotion. When emotions settle, actions become more visible. If your behavior remains steady and genuine over time, it can rebuild trust and strengthen the connection. If not, the silence itself provides the answer without confrontation. This approach protects her emotional energy while still giving the connection a chance to reveal its true value. Another important aspect is self-worth. When a woman understands her value, she does not feel the need to chase clarity or demand attention. Instead, she allows her absence to speak. If the connection matters, it will be noticed. If it does not, the silence becomes confirmation rather than confusion. Emotional attraction may still exist, but it is now balanced with awareness. Awareness ensures that feelings are not given without purpose. This balance creates strength because she is not ignoring her emotions, but she is also not allowing them to control her actions blindly. Silence can also create reflection on your side. When communication stops or becomes limited, it often makes the other person more aware of what is missing. This awareness can lead to realization, effort, or change. In this way, silence becomes a mirror rather than a barrier. It reflects what each person is willing to do when the situation is no longer easy or predictable. Emotional attraction often becomes clearer when effort is no longer automatic, because true interest continues even without encouragement. When a woman chooses silence in this way, it often carries intention rather than indifference. It shows that she still feels something, but she wants to understand if those feelings are matched with real effort and genuine intention. And when silence becomes a way to reveal truth instead of hiding emotion, it often means the connection still matters, but only if it proves itself through actions.